We're back right now. Alarming new details today about a pivotal meeting early on in the Trump presidency, courtesy of reporting from our friends Philip Rucker and Carol Leonnig of the Washington Post in their new book, a must-read, A Very Stable Genius. 6 months into the administration, Jim Mattis, Rex Tillerson, and Gary Cohn sought to educate, a tutorial they described it. They wanted to educate the president at the Pentagon in what was essentially an information intervention, an attempt to teach the president about alliances, trade deals, and how they work together to prop up world order. They used visual aids with dollar signs to try to get his attention. This backfired. Trump was apparently allergic, as they describe it, to the schoolhouse vibe. He went into a rage, repeatedly interrupting after hearing trigger words like base and NATO. He criticized the war in Afghanistan, calling it a loser war in front of several men and women in uniform. Carol and Phil describe the shock, the revulsion in that room, and then they report this. "I wouldn't go to war with you people," Trump told the assembled brass. Addressing the room, the commander-in-chief barked, "You're a bunch of dopes and babies." This is in front of his military team. Carol and the table are back with us right now. Carol, I want to get to you on this because you were on the team that reported that Rex Tillerson, as a function, as after that meeting, described the president as a expletive moron at the time. This is what preceded it. So how does that all fit together, that meeting, as you remember it from 2017?
Well, it really Carol and Phil's excellent reporting really sheds new light on what exactly transpired before and prompted Rex Tillerson to say that. We knew at the time that it was a very tense meeting, that the president, we also reported, was walked through the U.S. nuclear capabilities and said some things that alarmed officials. We also knew that there was a meeting on Afghanistan where he threatened to fire the commander of the top U.S. commander in Afghanistan and really just offended a lot of the military officials who were in that meeting. And then, after this meeting at the Pentagon, Tillerson, we now know why he was so frustrated and why he came out and said, and what people who told us at the time we reported this story, they thought it was shocking because there were so many people around. We know why he now said that the president was a moron. And it shows also that Rex Tillerson was one of the only people who really stood up for everyone, essentially, that he stood up in these meetings, according to Carol and Phil's reporting, and backed the military officials in the room and was so disgusted by this. And that explains a lot about how he got set on the wrong foot with the president. We knew that he had briefed him in a number of ways that he didn't like, but this is fascinating and really tells you a broader story about those initial national security officials who were around the president.
And Jonathan, this gets to the issue of guardrails behind the scenes with this president, something that Nicole likes to talk about a lot at this table here. These were the guys who were supposed to stand up to the president, but the bottom line is a lot of them. Mike Pence sat there, as they describe it, like a wax museum guy.
Yeah, no, first, congrats to Phil and Carol on the book, obviously. It's got a lot of great details in it. But that is right, that there was this first generation of his national security team who, many people at the time, including some of us at this table, like, why are you still working with him? Like, why are you there? And I think the answer is because they felt like they were trying to keep him in place. That is, maybe as chaotic as things were, it would have been worse were they not there. That was the argument that people made when they defended a Mattis or a Tillerson or a H.R. McMaster, and then later John Kelly, whoever was in the room to try to support him. But we see here that they were largely overmatched by the president. That they were able to stall him on certain things, and when there came a time to stand up to him, and the book describes how Mattis, because he's so adherent to the chain of command, that he wasn't the one who was going to stand up to the commander-in-chief. So Rex Tillerson did, and then a short time later, Rex Tillerson was out of a job. And as a final note, the team that surrounds the president now doesn't have these sort of presences. They're largely enablers. They're largely people who
Look at the Iran situation.
Right, who feel like their mission is to deliver what the president wants rather than to push back.
Rev, I want your take on this because it sort of raises this idea that, not so much an idea, a fact, that the president is almost militantly anti-information, anti-intellectualism. He doesn't want to be told anything. He just wants to believe what he believes.
I think that you've got to always go back to who Donald Trump is as a person. Donald Trump always wanted to be in the circles of influence and was always rejected and always seen as this out-of-borough guy who just, daddy had money, but, he with Roy Cohen, they were not considered respectable. I think a lot of the bombast, including this encounter that we just talked about, is that he rejects getting into those kind of conversations because he really does not understand the policy or the strategy that you're talking about. So rather than sit there and try and learn, he overrules everybody with bombast and with anger, so he doesn't have to engage in the conversation, so you know that he's really not a moron, which Tillerson found out and assessed and said.
Rev, stay with us. All of you all stay with us right now. After the break, more from the book and